Hello. In this video, I want to go through an iconic game in chess history played by the chess grandmaster Nigel Short, known as the King March game, in which in the middle of the game, Nigel Short randomly just marches his king up the side of the board for 5 straight moves in a row, resulting in an unstoppable attack and winning the game against fellow grandmaster Jan Timman. This game features one of the most creative attacking ideas we've probably ever seen in the history of chess, and it's just a cool game and one of my favorites of all time. If you don't know who Nigel Short is a chess grandmaster from England. At his peak, he was the 3rd highest rated player in the world, and he was the first English player who ever competed for the World Chess Championship, in which he played a match against Garry Kasparov and lost. Nigel Short is known as one of the greatest attacking chess players of all time and one of the most creative, with this game being one of his greatest of all time. I skipped through the game to the first critical moment, and now I'm going to quickly give some analysis of what's going on in this position. Here, what we can see for the white side is that we kind of have a threat going here, but it's not really a threat because the rook is defending it. Black has his battery with the queen and the bishop, kind of putting pressure on our g2 pawn, which is restricting our knight from being able to move right now. After looking at this position, it seems like there's not really any moves for black to improve their position. And at first glance, it also looks like there's nothing for white to really do in order to improve their position. They can't reasonably get both rooks on the 7th rank. White can't move their knight to get into the game because it would hang checkmate. And off first glance, and also how Jan Timman analyzed the position, it sort of seems like it's just a draw, with both sides not really having any sort of plans to advance in the position. But it's actually in this position where Nigel Short finds one of the most creative attacking ideas probably in the history of chess of all time. Here, Nigel Short plays the amazing move King h2. Now, King h2, like, what a weird move, right? Now, Jan Timman, he didn't think this move had any idea to it. He thought this was just a random move by white to pass a turn. So, as Jan Timman in his position, he also chose to just make a random move because he thought white was going to probably go back and forth with the king, and the game was going to end in a draw that way. So Jan Timman just plays rook to c8, and he expected white's king to kind of just go back and forth and the game to end in repetition. But Nigel Short had an actual idea in mind when he moved his king to h2. The idea he had in mind can be seen with his next move, king to g3. Okay, let's just take a pause and a step back real quick and really think about what white just did. In the middle of the game, white just moved his king to h2 and then up to g3, just out in the open. Like, chess coaches everywhere are probably screaming, like, what are you doing here? But it was after Nigel Short played this move that Jan Timman finally suddenly realized what the idea was behind Nigel Short's last moves. Nigel Short is trying to get his king over to h6 in order to then put his queen on g7 to be checkmate. Now this must have been a complete shock to Jan Timman because he definitely didn't expect king h2 to come with the threat of the king walking all the way up the board for checkmate. But that's the reality of the position. And now black has to scramble and try and stop the king from getting to h6. So now the name of the game becomes black has to stop the king from getting to h6 or else he just loses. Okay, so Jan Timman tries to scramble his pieces towards the king side to get them in defense. So he starts by playing rook c to e8 to just try and swarm all of his pieces over to the king side to defend. What does white do in this position? Doesn't have a care in the world. King f4. Just keeps moving on up. Just keeps on marching his king up. You know, one turn at a time, just gonna slowly stroll up for checkmate. Now, black responds, bishop to c8, attacking this rook, trying to create a threat and stop white from playing this plan. Now, for many beginner players, when they see a piece attack their rook, the first thing they usually think of is, okay, I gotta move my rook out of the way. But don't forget, this is Nigel Short, one of the most creative and greatest attacking players in the history of chess. So when Nigel Short sees one of his pieces getting attacked, he doesn't think, oh, I gotta get that piece to safety. He thinks, I can sacrifice it. King g5. Just, who cares about the rook? Mate's better. Who needs a rook? Now, what you may or may not believe here is that in this position, black just actually resigned. Now, I'll quickly explain why it is that black resigned. The threat that's coming up is king to h6, and then queen to g7. So for example, if black plays bishop takes rook, king h6, and there's not a single move on the board available that can stop queen g7 from being checkmate. The best try that you can give for the black pieces is to go king to h7 in order to stop king to h6 from coming. However, in this position, there's actually another very, very nice move for white, which actually is going to result in checkmate if played correctly. Give yourself a moment, pause the video, and try and find the winning move here for white. The winning move in this position takes advantage of the fact that this f7 pawn is actually pinned. So we can play queen takes g6 check, and the f pawn is not able to take us. And then king to h8 is forced. From here, I actually think it's the most hilarious variation. We can go back to queen f6 with check. If the king goes to g8, then we'll go to h6 and go with our original plan, and there's nothing stopping g7. However, if the king goes back to h7, we have queen h6 check, king g8 is forced, and then our king goes to f6 instead. And once again, there's no stopping this from being checkmate. And there's no way. The only check available for the black pieces is to give up the queen with check, and this threat is still coming in with mate. Just what an amazing attack played by Nigel Short using the white pieces. If we go back and recap, for 5 straight moves in a row, white just moves the king up the board in order to generate a devastating mate threat against the king with literally no way to defend it on the board. I mean, think about that. 5 king moves in a row. Black could do everything in their power to try and stop it, and there was nothing he could do. Just what an unbelievable attack. And now that you've seen how Nigel Short proceeded to attack with this game, I wanted to really just put the game at the starting critical position and really just think about how we could find moves like this in the future. We can't move our knight to get it into the game because it would hang checkmate. We couldn't get this rook into the game because there's no way we can get this rook out of the way to get that involved. This queen is already in the game, and Nigel Short didn't stop thinking there. He looked at this position and thought to himself, this king doesn't have a role in the game yet. and he realized that if he was able to put his king on h6, that he could get a devastating attack against his opponent's king. I think that kind of creative thinking in chess is highly valuable and could really lead to inspirational moments in your own games if you're able to think back to famous games like this one. And that's it for this video. If you enjoyed the attack or enjoyed my recap of the game, please like, comment, and subscribe, as it helps out a channel like mine greatly. If you want to see any fast wins in the Halloween Gambit, I recommend you check out this video on my channel. But other than that, good luck in your future chess games, have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.